Alright, hello again. Sorry, we're continuing in the middle of chapter 15. My puppies interrupted me last time. They were demanding attention. So, we ended on page... And they're still going to interrupt me, so apologies for any background barks. So, we ended on page 140 towards the bottom in the middle of chapter 15. And they've just gotten to the top of Chandon Blaze. We're continuing on in Amari's perspective. Yes. So Zelly pauses before a skull, brows knitting, though nothing happens. What is it? I ask. It's spirit. She bends down. It's rising. Rising where? I step back, stumbling over a piece of rubble. Another chill fills me with unspoken dread, but I can't decipher if it's real or just in my head. I don't know. Zelly rubs her neck. Something about the temple is amplifying my ashe. I can actually feel my magic. Before I can ask another question, Zelly bends down and touches another skull. My hand flies to my chest. This time it's not an icy cold that flashes around her, but an image, tinted in gold. Magnificent temples and towers rise, stunning structures adorned with elegant waterfalls. Dark men, women, and children in fine suede robes roam, beautiful lines and symbols dotting their skin in elegant swirls of white. Though the flash only lasts an instant, the image of the lush grounds stains my memories as I look at the broken rubble before me. Chandalblay used to be radiant. Now it's only air. What do you think happened here? I asked Zelly, though I fear I already know. Father destroyed the beauty of magic in my life. Why wouldn't he have done the same throughout the world? I wait for Zelly to answer, but she doesn't respond. Her face hardens with each passing second. She's seeing more, something I can't. A soft lavender light begins to glow from her fingers, surfacing as she explores her powers for the first time. Watching her, my curiosity builds. What else can she see? Though the thought of magic still makes my pulse race, part of me wishes I could experience its rush just once. The rainbow that bursts from Binta's hands begins to fill my mind until I hear Tazane call. Check this out! We follow Tazane's voice until we're facing the only standing structure on the mountainside. The temple towers into the sky, built against the ledge of the rock's incline. Unlike the stone bricks, the structure's crafted from blackened metal, streaked with yellows and pinks that suggest it once shone gold. Vines and moss grow up the sides, obscuring endless rows of ancient runes carved into the temple's frieze. Zelly moves toward the doorless entrance, but Nayla lets out a small growl. Okay, Nayla. Zelly gives her nose a kiss. Stay here, all right? Nayla grunts and collapses behind a pile of broken stone. With Nayla settled, we walk through the opening and greet a magical aura so thick, even I can feel its weight in the room. Tazane scoots closer to Zelly as I run my hand against the air. The oscillations of magical energy slip through my fingers like grains of falling sand. Rays of light peek through the cracked oculus above, illuminating the patterned dome ceiling. The designs feed into rows of pillars, decorated with colored glass and shimmering crystals. Why didn't they destroy this? I wonder as I run my fingers along the carvings. The temple is strangely untouched, a lone tree in a scorched forest. See any doors? Tazane calls from the other side of the room. Nothing, Zelly calls back. The only visible fixture is a large statue pressed against the back wall, collecting dust and overgrown vines. We walk over and Tazane runs his hands over the weathered stone. The statue appears to be that of an elderly woman cloaked in rich robes. A golden crown sits in her sculpted white coils, the only untarnished metal in sight. Is it a goddess? I ask, inspecting the sculpture up close. In all my years, I've never seen a rendering of a single deity. No one would dare place one in the palace. I always assumed the first time I saw a god or goddess it would be depicted like the royal portraits hanging in the main hall. But despite its tarnish, this statue holds a regal air, even the most stunning painting couldn't achieve. What's this? Tizane points to an object in the woman's hand. It looks like a horn. Zelly reaches up to it to inspect it. It's strange. She runs her hand across its rusted metal. I can almost hear it in my head. What's it saying? I ask. It's a horn, Amari. It's not saying anything. My cheeks flush. Well, if it's a sculpture, it shouldn't be making sound at all. Just be quiet. Zelly hushes me and places both hands on the metal. I think it's trying to tell me something. I hold my breath as her brows pinch. After a few long moments, her hands begin to glow with a glittering silver light. The horn seems to feed on her hachet, glowing brighter as she strains. Be careful, Tizane warns. I am. Zelly nods, though she begins to shake. It's close, it just needs one more push. A slow creak rumbles under our feet. I yelp at the sound. We whip around in surprise as a large tile slides away from the floor. The opening reveals a staircase spiraling down into a room so dark it masks everything in blackness. Is it safe? I whisper. The darkness makes my heartbeat spike. I lean down to get a better look, but there isn't a source of light in sight. There's no other door. Zelly shrugs. What choice do we have? Tizane runs outside, returning with a charred femur bone wrapped in a torn bit of his cloak. Zelly and I recoil, but he brushes past us and lights the cloth with our flint, creating a makeshift torch. Follow me, he says, his commanding voice diminishing my fear. We begin our descent with Tizane leading the way. Though the torch's bubble of light illuminates our steps, it touches nothing more. I keep a hand on the jagged wall, counting my breaths until we finally reach the next floor. The moment my foot leaves the last step, the opening above us slams shut with a deafening crack. Skies! My shriek rings through the darkness. I fling myself into Zelly. What do we do now? I tremble. How do we get out of here? Tizane turns to run back up the stairs, but stops when he hears hissing in the air. Within seconds, his torch blows out, leaving us in total blackness. Tizane! Zelly shouts. The hiss grows louder until a warm gust of air hits me like rain. When I inhale, it instantly slows my muscles, then begins to cloud my mind. Poison! Tizane manages to croak before I hear the thud of his body hitting the ground. I don't even have a chance to feel afraid before the darkness takes hold. Okay, so for chapter 15, what are your 3 to 4 main ideas? What's the primary pieces that happen? You're writing your summary. Also, really focusing on adding to your characterization of Amari, what more we've discovered about her, especially from her perspective, and how she's taking in and reacting to everything that's happened to her over the past 15 chapters going through. Okay? And so we're going to be left in a little bit of a cliffhanger here, because chapter 16 is in Enan's perspective. So he continues. A hush cuts through the air when my legion descends into Sokoto. It doesn't take long to figure out why. We're the only guards in sight. Where are the patrols? I whisper to Kia. The silence is deafening. It's like these people have never laid eyes on the Eurasian seal. Skies only know what Father would do if he witnessed their complete lack of respect. We dismount our riders by a lake so clear it reflects the surrounding trees like a mirror. Lula gnashes her teeth at a group of children. They scamper away as she takes a drink. We don't post guards at traveling settlements. It would be a waste when the residents change every few days. Kia unlatches her helmet and the wind runs through her hair. My scalp itches to feel the same, but I have to keep my white streak hidden. Find her. I inhale the clean, brisk air, trying to forget about my streak, if only for a moment. Unlike the heat and smog of Lagos, the small settlement is fresh, revitalizing. The cool breath dulls the burn in my chest as I try to keep my curse down, but my pulse races as I scan the surrounding diviners. I've been so focused on ending the girl. I didn't stop to think of how she could end me. I grip the hilt of my sword as my eyes flick from diviner to diviner. I've yet to see the extent of the girl's magic. How would I defend against her attack? And what if she fights with her words? A prick of terror hits. The magic inside me spikes. All she'd have to do is point to my helmet. identify the curse hidden beneath. Kia would see my white streak. My secret would be out for the world to see. Focusing in. I close my eyes, holding the warm Sonnet pawn tight. I can't keep spiraling. I have to fulfill my duty. Orisha is still under attack. As the numbers force order into my head, I reach for the curved handle of my throwing knife. Magic or not, the right throw will disarm her. A sharp blade will still cut through her chest. But for all my plotting and maneuvering, it's obvious the girl isn't here. Though there's no shortage of glaring diviners, her silver gaze is not among them. I release the throwing knife as something I can't place deflates in my chest. It sinks like disappointment. It breathes like relief. Take these posters, Kia instructs the soldiers. She hands each of the 10 men a roll of parchment inked with the girl's smug face. Find out if anyone has seen her or a bull-horned lionaire. You usually don't find them so close to our coast. Kia turns to me, lips pursed in determination. We'll search the merchants. If they really came south, this would be the first place to gather supplies. I nod and try to relax. But being this close to Kia makes it impossible. Every little movement catches her eye. Each sound particularly makes her ears twitch. As I walk behind her, the strain of pushing my powers down grows with every step. The iron of my armor begins to drag like lead. Though we walk slowly, I can't keep a steady pace. With time, I begin to fall behind. I hunch over, resting my hands on my knees. I just need to catch my breath. What are you doing? I snap up, ignoring how my curse spikes at the edge in Kia's voice. The tents. I gesture at natural shelters before me. I was inspecting them. Unlike the metal poles and leathery hipponite hides we used to build our tents, they are made with branches and coated in moss. In fact, there's a strange efficiency to their structure. Techniques the army could adapt. It's hardly the time for rudimentary architecture. Kia narrows her eyes. Focus on the task at hand. She turns on her heels, walking even faster now that I've wasted her time. I rush to follow, but as we near the carts and wagons, a stout woman catches my eye. Unlike the other campers, she isn't glaring. She isn't looking at us at all. Her attention is directed toward the bundle of blankets she cradles to her chest. Like a suppressed sneeze, my curse jumps to the surface. The mother's emotions hit like a smack to the face. Sparks of rage, dull flashes of fear, but above all else, a protectiveness burns, snarling like a snow lepanaire guarding its only cub. I don't understand why until the bundle pressed against her chest begins to cry. A child. My eyes travel down the woman's chestnut skin to the jagged rock clasped in her hand. Her terror surges through my bones, but her resolve burns even stronger. Enan! I snap back to attention. I have to whenever Kia calls my name. But as I reach the merchant wagons, I glance back at the woman, shoving my curse down despite the way it makes my stomach burn. What does she have to fear? And what business would I have with her child? Wait! I stop Kia as we pass a merchant wagon pulled by one-horned cheetah-nares. The spotted creature gazes at me with orange eyes. Sharp fangs peek from behind their black-lined lips. What? A turquoise cloud hangs around the doorway, bigger than the ones that have been appearing. This one has a wide selection. I try to keep my voice light as we approach. And the sea salt scent of the girl's soul. Though I fight my magic, her smell surrounds me when I pass through the cloud. The diviner appears in my mind fully formed. Dark skin, almost luminescent in the Sokoto sun. The image only lasts a moment, but even a flicker makes my insides churn. The magic feeds like a parasite in my blood. I straighten my helmet as we walk through the wagon's door. Welcome, welcome! The wide smile of the elderly merchant drips from his dark face like wet paint. He stands clenching the sides of this wagon for support. Kia shoves the scroll in his face. Have you seen this girl? The merchant squints and cleans his spectacles against his shirt. Slowly. Buying time. He takes the sheet. I can't say I have. Droplets of sweat form on his brow. I glance at Kia. She notices too. Doesn't take magic to tell this fool's lying. I walk around the small wagon, searching, knocking over goods to get a rise. I spot a tear-shaped bottle of black dye and slip it into my pocket. For a while the merchant stays still. Too still for someone with nothing to hide. He tenses when I near a crate. So I kick down with my foot, wooden splinters fly, an iron safe is revealed. Don't! Kia pushes the merchant against the wall and searches him, tossing a ring of keys my way. I test each in the lock of the hidden safe. How dare he lie to me? When the right key fits, I slam open the vault, expecting to find an incriminating clue, but then I spot the jewels of Amari's headdress. My breath catches in my throat. The sight takes me back, bringing me to the days when we were kids, the day she first wore this, the moment I heard her. I wrap myself in the curtains of the palace infirmary. It's a fight to stifle my cries. As I cower, the physicians tending to Amari's wounds expose her back. My stomach twists when I see the word slash. Red and raw, the cut rips across her spine. More and more blood leaks by the second. I'm sorry, I cry into the curtains, wincing every time the doctor's needles make her scream. I'm sorry, I ache to shout. I promise I'll never hurt you again. But no words leave my mouth. She lies on the bed screaming, praying for the agony to end. After hours, Amari lies numb, so drained she can't even speak. As she moans, her handmaiden Binta slips into her bed, whispering something that somehow draws a smile from Amari's lips. I listen and watch intently. Binta comforts Amari in a way none of us can. She sings her to sleep with her melodic voice, and when Amari slumbers, Binta takes Mother's old dented tiara and places it on Amari's head. So in here, remember, this happened a couple of times, but this is probably one of the lengthier ones. We have a lot of flashbacks, and a lot of the time you see that, so our authors italicize the flashbacks for us. So in your notes, think about why is this flashback important to have at this point in the story. So they could have had this flashback when we first saw Amari's scar, but what is this flashback adding to the point now? How is it helping specifically with the non-story and this part in the plot here? So what is that flashback adding? Not a day passed when Amari didn't wear that tiara. The only fight with Mother she ever won. It would take a Gorillion to rip it off her head. For this to be here, my sister would have to be dead. I shoved Kia aside and thrust my blade against the merchant's neck. Enan, I silenced Kia with my hand. This isn't the time for rank or discretion. Where did you get this? The girl gave it to me, the merchant croaks. Yesterday. I grabbed the parchment. Her? No. The merchant shakes his head. She was there, but it was another girl. She had copper skin, bright eyes. Eyes like yours. Amari? That means she's still alive. What did they buy? Kia interrupts. A sword, some canteens. It seemed like they were going on a trip, like they were heading into the jungle. Kia's eyes widen. She rips the parchment out of my hands. It has to be the temple, Chindomble. How close is it? A full day's ride, but let's depart. I grab the headdress and make for the door. If we ride fast, we can catch them. Wait, Kia calls. What shall we do with him? Please, the merchant trembles. I didn't know it was stolen. I pay my taxes on time. I'm loyal to the king. I hesitate, staring at the pitiful man. I know what I'm supposed to say. I know what Father would do. Enan, Kia asks. She puts her hand on her blade. I need to give the order. I can't show weakness. Duty before self. Please, the merchant begs, latching onto my hesitation. You can take my cart. You can take everything I have. He's seen too much, Kia cuts in. Just hold on, I hiss, pulse pounding in my ears. The burnt corpses of Aloran flash into my mind. The seared flesh, the crying child. Do it, I push myself. One kingdom is worth more than one life. But too much blood has already been spilled. So much of it by my hand. Before I can say anything, the merchant sprints for the exit. One hand makes it to the door. Crimson explodes in the air. Blood splatters across my chest. The merchant tumbles to the ground, collapsing with a dense thud. Kia's throwing knife sticks out of the back of his neck. After a shuddered breath, the merchant bleeds in silence. Kia eyes me as she bends down, extracting her knife as if pulling the perfect rose from a garden. You mustn't tolerate those who get in your way, Enon. Kia steps over the corpse, wiping her blade clean. Especially those who know too much. Okay, so there we've ended chapter 16, Enon's perspective. So again, those 3 to 4 main ideas, you're writing a 3-sentence summary and really focusing on who is Enon, what more have we learned about him. And here too, we're really seeing his internal conflict. So of course he has that external conflict, finding Amari, his external conflict with his dad, and even some external conflict with Kia here as well. But what is this internal conflict doing to him, and how is he trying to overcome it? What's happening here? So, chapter 17, this is the final chapter in this section of the book that we're going to read before we have our big discussion over it. And we're ending with Amari's perspective. A haze lifts from my mind as I blink into consciousness. My vision blurs the past and the present. For a moment, the silver of Binta's eyes shine. But when the hallucination passes, the flicker of candle flames dances along jagged stone walls. A rodent scurries by my feet and I jolt back. It's only then that I realize I'm bound, tied to Tizane and Zelly with unyielding ropes. Guys? Zelly stirs at my back, sleep dripping from her voice. She twists and turns, but no matter how much she writhes, the ropes do not give. What happened? Tizane's words slur together. He pulls, but even his considerable might doesn't loosen the rope's hold. For a while his grunts are the only sound in the cavern. But in time another sound grows louder. We freeze as footsteps near. Your sword, Zelly hisses. Can you reach it? My fingers brush against Zelly's as I reach backward for my hilt, but I grasp only air. It's gone, I whisper back. Everything is. We scan the dimly lit cave, searching for the brass of my hilt, the gleam of Zelly's staff. Someone's taken all our things. We don't even have the scroll. A deep voice booms. I tense as a middle-aged man appears in the candlelight, dressed in a sleeveless suede robe. White swirls and patterns dot every inch of his dark skin. Zelly sucks in a quick breath. A centauro. A what? I whisper. Who's there? Tizane growls, straining against the ropes to see. He bares his teeth in defiance. The mysterious man doesn't even blink. He leans against a staff carved from stone, gripping the face sculpted into its handle. An undeniable fury burns behind his golden eyes. I begin to think he won't move at all when suddenly he lurches forward. Zelly jumps as the man grasps a lock of her hair. Straight, he mutters with a hint of disappointment. Why? Get your hands off her, Tizane yells. Though Tizane poses no threat, the man steps back, releasing Zelly's hair. He pulls the scroll from the band of his robe, and his golden eyes narrow. This was taken from my people years ago. His accent hums thick and heavy, different than the Oretian dialects I've heard. I stare at the unraveled scroll in his hand, recognizing a few symbols on the parchment inked into his skin. They stole it from us. His voice takes a violent turn. I will not let you do the same. You are mistaken, I blurt out. We are not here to steal. Exactly what they said before. He wrinkles his nose at me. You stink of their blood. I draw back, shrinking into Zane's shoulder. The man looks at me with a hatred I cannot deflect. She's not lying, Zelly rushes out, a voice powered with conviction. We're different. The gods sent us. A seer guided us here. Mama Agba. I think back to her parting words. We're meant to do this. I want to cry out. But how can I argue that when right now all I wished was that I had never laid eyes on that scroll? The Centauro's nostrils flare. He raises his arms and the air thrums with the threat of magic. He's going to kill us. My heart thrashes against my chest. This is where our journey ends. Father's old warnings ring in my head. Against magic, we don't stand a chance. Against magic, we are defenseless. Against magic, we die. I saw what this used to be, Zelly chokes out. I saw the towers and the temples, the Santaros who looked like you. The man brings his arms down slowly, and I know Zelly's caught his attention. She swallows hard. I pray to the skies she finds the right words. I know they came to your home, destroyed everything you loved. They did the same thing to me, to thousands of people who look like me. Her voice cracks and I close my eyes. Behind me, Tazango's rigid. My throat dries with the realization of who Zelly's talking about. I was right. Father destroyed this place. I think back to all the rubble, the cracked skulls, the hard look in Zelly's gaze, the peaceful village of Aloran up in flames, the tears streaming down Tazane's face. The cascade of light that escaped Binta's palms fills my mind, more beautiful than the sun's own rays. Where would I be now if Father had allowed Binta to live? What would all of Arisha look like if he had just given these magi a chance? Shame beats down on me, making me want to crawl into myself as the man raises his arms again. I squeeze my eyes shut in preparation for pain. The rope vanishes into thin air. Our belongings reappear by our sides. I'm still stunned by the magic when the mysterious man walks away, leaning on his staff. As we rise, he utters a simple command. Follow me. Okay, so we've just now finished chapters 6 through 17. So a big portion of this, too, we're going to be discussing in class is our character development, the different conflicts we have within here, but also paying attention to what do you think is an overarching theme developing through chapters 6 through 17. So think about all the different motifs, those main ideas that we saw repeated over and over again, and using those motifs, develop a theme, a moral, a insight into human nature, some sort of lesson that can be gained and you believe is illustrated in chapters 6 through 17. And be thinking about what's a piece of explicit evidence, a section within here that will help support your theme that you've chosen here, okay? And be prepared to read our next set of chapters after we discuss this. Have a wonderful day.